What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one and only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com, AshSaidIt.com, babies. Welcome back to the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I'm your girl, Ash Brown. This is my show. Yeah. I do it how I want to do it, when and how I'd like it to be done. Yes, because that's the only way I can do it, baby. All right, so people keep asking me about the podcast. Ash, how can I get a podcast that's going to be streaming like yours? How do I do this? How do I do that? I tell them, and then they still don't believe me. And then they ask me about the tricks of the trade. The fact of the matter is this. Creating a podcast is not difficult. It's easy. You can have a podcast up and running in minutes. That's just life. I'm not even making that up. You can have a podcast running in minutes, whether it's an app like Spreaker, or if you go the BTR route. It doesn't take that long to do a podcast. That's not the problem. People's issue with podcasts is they think that it's a special formula that you cook up and you got to have the right type of equipment and blah, blah, blah. The equipment is really an accessory to the content at hand. All right? It's really an accessory because at the end of the day, you can have the crappiest equipment in the world. But if you've got a message that resounds with people, if you've got distribution that is streaming you out to multiple sources, after a certain amount of time, you will see success. You will. But I can't tell you, there's been about, in the last week, maybe about 10 or so DMs that I've received from people that are asking me about podcasting and all this stuff. So I may actually have to create my own podcasting course, just introducing people to podcasting, just introducing them to it, because people have these unrealistic notions about what podcasting is, what it can do, how you can generate income. People are just crazy. They're just crazy. Because I've got folks that's like, girl, yeah, I done spent $3,000 something on this in-home studio, these microphone setups, these ergonomic chairs. Girl, this is going to be it. The chairs don't make the show. The equipment don't make the show. You make the show, baby. You make the show. So you can have the most sophisticated equipment in the world, but if you don't have things that people want to hear or talk about or dispute back and forth with you, you really don't have anything. The one thing that I tell people when they're thinking about doing a podcast, I think I want to do this, I think I want to do that. You've got to figure out what your voice is. What are you going to talk about? Why do people care? Why should they care? I'm talking to somebody right now. I don't know who. I'm talking to somebody, though. But you have to figure out what your cause is. Because if you don't have a cause, if you don't have a reason to get up and talk and figure out topics that people will really care about, it's pretty much you're like a lost cause. You're pretty much a lost cause. So you've got to figure out what your niche is and stick with it. When I was starting, a lot of people came at me and was like, yo, Ash, you could totally be the next Wendy Williams or Sway in the Morning. And I do not like comparisons. I do not copycat anybody. I am myself. So when you start to put in comparisons, you've already lost me. You've already lost me. If you compare me to somebody else, you've lost me because I'm not them. I'm me. I'm not taking away them being who they are in the world because we all need that balance. But I'm not going to copy what they're doing. No. That's boring and so unoriginal. I just got to be myself. That's it. I just want to be myself, talk about myself, get paid, flown around the globe, doing that stuff, and that's just it. I'm not going to pretend to be someone else. I'm not going to use someone else's recipe to do what I need to do for me. I'm just going to be me, and guess what? It does pay. It does. But you have to really be in it to win it. You can't be doing it at halfway, kind of, sort of, well, I think I sort of, kind of want to do. No. No, and no. And I'm going to tell you why. When I started up on Spreaker, it was off of a dare. Somebody dared me to do Spreaker. Ash, I think that you'd be really good doing Spreaker, blah, blah, blah. With them really not knowing that I'd already done the podcasting. Sorry. Not understanding that I already conquered the podcasting game. And I got burnt out on it. And I lost interest in it. See, when something loses your interest, and you kind of feel like, okay, well, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with that anymore. And that's really where I was. I was so done with it. It was doing a lot of good. But at the same token, I had a company that I was promoting that had basically gone under and wasn't doing anything. So I decided to turn away from that company and gather my own self. I took years off. I took about 4 years off and didn't do anything in media. I wasn't doing any promotions, publicity. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was really just on some straight up, I'm going to just chill. I'm going to just chill. I'm going to take care of family. I'm going to chill. I'm going to stay in chill mode. And that was one of the best things that I could have done, because opportunities kept coming for me. Kept coming, and they didn't stop coming. And that led me to the conclusion that this is meant to be. I don't fully know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know that these things are not coming at me like this, in this way, in this manner, with such just ferocious energy for nothing. This stuff is meant to be. And it took me some time and some soul searching till I figured out exactly what I was supposed to be doing and how I was going to do it. But, baby, when it came, when it came. Because a lot of times people, they don't believe in themselves. And if you have a leader, if you have a head of an organization that has low self-esteem, has no grounded, aspirations for life, that is a negative place to be. That's not a good place to be in. They're not going to lead you anywhere but off the cliff. That's it. They're not going to lead you no further than that. And you have to figure out, what are you supposed to be doing? How is it supposed to be done? How are you going to do it? Who needs to be there along the way to help it get done? It takes a lot. Podcasting is not easy. It's not easy. You've got to figure out all kind of technical stuff with it. You have to figure out what works from what doesn't work. There's a lot that goes into it already. Now, when you add this $3,500 studio, you didn't add it to your house, and this program here that you don't know how to use quite yet, and all these different things, you're jumping into a spot that is not familiar, not good for you, and ultimately will not help you get to where you're supposed to be. It's a distraction. And then you'll be calling me up, asking me, Ash, how do I do this? How do I do that? I did that. This ain't working. Let me tell you, I live on the go. I live on the go, meaning I have to keep rolling with the punches. I have to. There's no way around it. When I'm called to Nashville, I'm steady to Nashville. I don't have time to gather up equipment and microphone settings and lighting and all that. I don't have that type of time. So when it's time for me to up and roll, I need to just be able to have the ability to up and roll. I don't have time to pick up amplifiers. I don't need condenser mics. Are you crazy? So do what's best for you, but don't overcomplicate it. Podcasting can be simple. It still is not going to take away from the amount of work that you're going to have to put into it, because you're going to have to put a whole lot of work into it in order for it to be successful. You have to. It's not an overnight thing. I've been doing this podcast thing for over 4 years now. Over 4 years, going into 5 years. And it doesn't get any easier, but people will start to recognize you. People will start to celebrate you. And that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. But again, it takes work. It's not overnight. You're not going to be able to just jump into a podcast and have it download 100,000 times in a week. Unless your last name is Kardashian, it's not going to happen for you. That's the only way that something like that can happen. If your last name is Kardashian, you might be good. You might be great, matter of fact. We'll say it's that. But everybody else, you're going to have to grind. You're going to have to. I didn't get to 500,000 streams worldwide just hoping and wishing and every so often doing a podcast show, because that was my first mistake. When I started my show, I would do it ever so often, kind of whenever I thought about the app. And I started taking it serious when I got onto iHeartRadio, because I really didn't think that I was going to get approved for it. I just thought that, let me just do this iHeartRadio stuff. Yeah, let me go ahead and do this, just to say that I did it. And hey, I applied for it. They didn't accept me, but whatever. And a year later, when I actually was approved, I was like, oh snap, like they're actually paying attention. They are actually paying attention. So you need to be putting out content that is consistent with your brand, and you need to focus on putting out good shows. And from there, it really helped me to mold the show to where it is, to going from Howdy Doody, we're going to do a show every blue moon, and I remember If I Wish Upon a Star, to consistently putting out a daily podcast show. Now, I have admitted to this. These shows are not taped live. No, I learned my lesson on that. Technology can fail you. It can. I do not record shows live. All of my shows are pre-recorded. All right? So that helps out a ton, because if I mess up, or if something is not played right, or if we forget to put in a commercial break, or whatever the case is, I can always, come back to it. Yay! I can always come back to it, change things, add things. It makes it very helpful, very crafty that way. At the moment, I do not have an opening song, an opening track. I'm very particular about my brand. I'm very particular about a lot of things. And I've had people approach me about that and have volunteered to do my jingle, my show opening, and I wasn't feeling it. It has to be within me. I have to love it. I have to feel as though this is something that I really want to put out there for people to hear and experience from me. But if something just doesn't resonate with me, I can't fake the funk. I can't. I'm not going to do it. And until I find a track or a vibe that I really like and I feel represents the brand as a whole, I'm not going to have a theme song, an opening song, or whatever, a closing song, whatever the case is. The show's not about that. The show's not about the graphics. The show's not about the special effects I can add to. That's not what the show is about. The show is about inspiration. It's about positive energy. It's about putting that out there. It's about celebrating yourself. It's about individuality. It's about just all these wonderful, great things that are not necessarily celebrated in pop culture today. And I realized that, and I took it upon myself to say, you know what? I'm going to be the example that I want to see. I'm going to be that person that we need to hear from. So, I'm sorry, y'all, but I've been driving for the last 4 hours, and I'm a little out of it. So I apologize. I do apologize. But yeah, creating a podcast is not difficult. It does take dedication. doing a podcast once a month, ever so often, or whenever you remember, ain't gonna cut it. How can you expect to build an audience if they don't know when to expect you? Marinate on that for a little bit. Yeah. So it's about consistency. It's about putting in the work. And it's about patience. Your time is coming. My time was not overnight in 2014. When I started the podcast, I really had very low expectations for it, because I had just come out of a podcast situation that was not wonderful and did not benefit me long term. So I was more into, I'm just going to do something to occupy me. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just going to do something to occupy my time, because I want to make sure that I create something that's good, something that I would want to hear, something that I would want to listen to. And then I was given the ability to incorporate guests. And that was the biggest blessing of all. To be able to incorporate guests is amazing. It's a beautiful thing. And everyone has a story. Every single person has a story to share. But it takes a lot for you to be in a place to share that story. And then it takes a lot to be okay with it being out there. It's going to be out there forever. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you got something that you don't want to share, I would strongly suggest you don't share it, because this show, when it goes live, it goes everywhere. And it goes to places and spots that I don't even know about. Places that I'm not even aware of. And there is no possible way for me to delete anything. So just don't say no crazy stuff. Don't say nothing ridiculous. Leave your social on the tip of your tongue. Just leave it there. Don't share what your home address is. Things of that nature. It's all a safety precaution. But at the end of the day, podcasting, it's not difficult, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Don't make it more difficult than what it is. A lot of people have created this beast and monster of what they expect their podcast to be, and every episode. And I'm going to tell you, after 1,000 plus episodes, I ain't really concerned about all the fine stuff of trying to make things feel or seem a certain way. I'm just one for getting that good vibration out, getting that good energy out. And that's really where I'm at with it. That's really where it's at. So that's my little splurge for the night. Yeah. So as I'm headed back to the A-Town, I just want to say that I love you guys to pieces. Keep doing what you do. Anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face and tell them, don't believe me, just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for the history books. Social media is nice, but real life, baby, it's so much better. It's way better. Way better. All right. I'm going to holler at y'all later. Have a great one.